Hey guys, it's Scott with Scotty B Cards, and in this video I want to talk about Bowman and prospecting and whether or not they make sense. So Bowman Chrome autographs and Bowman prospecting, minor league prospecting, all these things are a very important part of the baseball card ecosystem. We have different situations. Some people are in it just for the flip. They really enjoy it. Some people really want to target the right prospects so they can collect early enough to have a really good collection of a Hall of Fame path and caliber player, all these different things, and it's just a very interesting place to be. I personally collect more of the established players and long-term holds, and even a little bit of vintage sprinkled in here and there. Not as much as I should, because we should all have some vintage, but I do collect it. And so there are some people though who primarily do Bowman Chrome and prospecting. And those people tend to either make or lose the most money in sports cards. And I want to discuss all the good, the bad, and the ugly, and whether or not it really is the right thing to do. This is all my opinion. And so please stick through the entire video, because I promise if you like prospecting and I'm bashing it for a little bit, I will also praise it and I'll explain why. So the first thing, I just want to show you these two sales. They're kind of mind-numbing when you consider what they are. So the first one on the left is the Marcelo Mayer. This one's actually looking a little bit better than one on the right, in my opinion. He is the first round pick for the Boston Red Sox from 2021. And he's having a pretty good year this year in the minor leagues. He has a 318 batting average, the 918 OPS. He is striking out a little bit more than he's walking, which isn't great. He hasn't shown any major power yet. But either way, looks like he could be a very good ball player, 19 years old. But you see this, $132,000 for his Bowman Chrome Superfractor. This is 100% paying for potential. And the person who has this much money, they're hoping that he goes to AA next year and kills it so he can instantly flip it for double. That's just how prospecting works. It's pretty crazy. Then you have the Jason Dominguez. This is all hype-based purchase, in my opinion. Scouts always claim Jason Dominguez as the Martian, meaning he's like 5-tool player. He plays for the Yankees, probably the best franchise to have players in. And overall, his Bowman Chrome autograph went for almost $500,000. That's a very good home in most states. And he has an less than 800 OPS in single A right now for the Yankees minor league affiliate. So it's kind of tough since he hasn't really proven anything yet, but it is early and he could figure it out based off what scouts say. Does this make sense? You know how much stuff you can buy? You could buy probably a Mickey Mantle in decent grade, and you could buy a Mike Trout, probably blue Bowman Chrome autograph, and you could probably buy your wife a new car and maybe even a couple diamond rings for the same price as Jason Dominguez. So it's kind of insane at the point we are now. And I just want to show you, this is Giancarlo Stanton's first Bowman Chrome Superfractor. Whoever listed this, they listed it for $10,000 and it sold the same day. It probably could have gone for more on auction. I actually can almost guarantee it probably would have gone for more at like Golden or something, but I don't think it's too far off. This is a player who has 45 career WAR, an MVP, home run derby champion, one of the prolific power hitters of the last 30 years. He'll probably finish with 500 home runs, and he can't even get over 10 grand, let alone Jason Dominguez at $400,000. So that's some of the risks of prospecting. It is a zero-sum game, and I'll talk about this later, but a zero-sum game is if there's a winner, there is a loser. There has to be a winner and a loser in every transaction with these type of cards and these type of situations. So I want to talk about Hall of Fame. And the reason I'm talking about Hall of Fame right off the bat with prospecting is to really show how far of a long shot it is for these players to maintain and even gain value once they get to the big leagues or as they approach the big leagues. So the first thing is there have been 22,656 players to make Major League Baseball rosters and actually make a Major League Baseball game or an appearance in a Major League Baseball game. There are only 268 players in the Hall of Fame. And that's players. I think there's like 340, I believe, with managers and umpires and broadcasters and journalists and whatever else, but 268 actual players in the Hall of Fame. That is a 1.18% of a baseball player making the Hall of Fame. Not good. And you can see from a lot of Hall of Famers, just because they're in the Hall of Fame does not mean their cards are going to be valuable, even if the card is extremely rare, which I'll hit on later in this video as well. How many minor leaguers make the Hall of Fame? This is even more drastic compared to how many big leaguers make the Hall of Fame, because we're talking about prospecting cards. So I want to see how many of these prospects will make the Hall of Fame and have long-term value. Because if they aren't a Hall of Famer, Giancarlo Stanton, for example, was a top prospect. He was a very beloved prospect. And his card, his Bowman Chrome autograph, if he was a prospect now, would go for probably around that couple $100,000 range, right? But now it goes for 10 grand. So let's discuss Hall of Fame probabilities and if it can really pay off. So the way I did this math is I just went to each club has 4 minor league teams. Each team has 30 players in their roster, and there's 30 teams in baseball, and that's how I got 3,600. I know that's off. I have no way of proving how many players are in a major league team's minor league system. It's just too hard. I tried finding it. I couldn't find it. There was about 7,200 before they cut a bunch of the lower levels, and for that reason, 3,600 is probably a little low, but it still makes sense. So how many players in the minor leagues will make the Hall of Fame right now? 8. So if we actually use the same math, when there were 6,000-ish or 7,000-ish minor leaguers, about 720 of those players made it. But even though it's been cut in half, we still have to fill big league rosters, so I still expect 720 minor leaguers to make it. And that means if we times this by that 1% we got in the previous slide, 8 of the players who debut, even make it to the big leagues, will have a Hall of Fame career. So that means out of the 3,600 players, only 8 have that long-term value to really be valuable. That is a 0.24%. So when you're prospecting and looking for the long term, you don't have a really good exit strategy, the odds aren't good. If you find the right player and get lucky, you might as well go buy a lottery ticket at that point, because it's the same odds of losing at 99.76% of the time. How many drafted Hall of Famers since 1965? So now I want to show not just how many Hall of Famers there are, but how many Hall of Famers there are since 1965 and their draft positioning. This will be really important for how we value minor leaguers and their draft positioning currently. So the reason I picked 1965 is because that's when the Hall of Fame was introduced to Major League Baseball. And before then, a lot of players in the early 1900s got in, even though they probably didn't deserve it. And I don't want to get into that argument as well, but either way, 1965 is a very good benchmark. So in 1965, the MLB draft was introduced. How many Hall of Famers have been drafted? Since 1965, 47 Hall of Famers have been drafted in Major League drafts. And there's around 40 rounds on average for the last however many years it's been. There's been 55 total Hall of Famers, 47 drafted, 7 international free agents, and 1 undrafted free agent. And if you can guess who that 1 undrafted free agent is, I will shake your hand through the internet, but I will tell you right now, it is Mr. Larry Walker of the Colorado Rockies. He was just playing baseball because that's what he wanted to do, I guess, and he got signed as an undrafted free agent and made the Hall of Fame. It just shows his story is so cool of not likely to get in because he played for Colorado, but also because he's the only undrafted free agent since 1965 to make the Hall of Fame. Let's get back to this. So what percentage of Hall of Famers are first round draft picks? So I went in and I actually looked at every single Hall of Famer from 1965 and the round they were drafted in. So only 30% of the Hall of Famers since 1965, which again is that 47, are actually drafted in the first round. You have this false sense of security when a player's a first round pick that they're going to be good because they have so much potential. Did you see their college statistics or how good they were in high school? That means nothing because there's actually a majority of those players because there's so many rounds that are taken after the first round. Yes, the first round is the highest percentage of Hall of Famers in it in comparison to other rounds, but either way, only 30% again of the Hall of Famers are first round draft picks. That means how many first round draft picks since 1965 have made the Hall of Fame? Only 0.88%, less than 1% of all first round draft picks ever in Major League Baseball have made the Hall of Fame. And the last thing I want to point out before I stop shoving statistics down your throat is how many players have 60 WAR in the history of Major League Baseball. We've had like 268 players make the Hall of Fame, and I want to look at 60 WAR as the benchmark as the average Hall of Famer. Only 191, which is 0.84% of all players who've ever played Major League Baseball. Out of the 22,000, only 191 of them have 60 WAR. So pretty crazy to actually see that all out in numbers. Here's all of the Hall of Famers. You're going to look in their draft ranking and positioning. So you can see Andre Dawson is the 11th round. John Smoltz was 22nd round. Mike Piazza was the 62nd round. You see a couple great first rounders here and so forth. You can pause it and look at this if you would like to. So let's look at Bowman Baseball. Bowman Chrome Baseball autographs. Here's a couple players who have been gracing the hot list of Beckett magazine for years. In 2005 to 2010, these were the guys. These were the top prospects. These were the can't miss dudes who performed really, really well, and they just fizzled out in some capacity. Evan Longoria has still a potential Hall of Fame candidacy. Whether you disagree or not, I would take both arguments, but he has a potential to make the Hall of Fame still, especially because he's kind of picked it up since his early in the season struggles. So if he does, you have a potential future Hall of Famer's Bowman Chrome autograph for $33 or a blue out of 150 for $65. And this is before all the different parallels and refractors were introduced. This is a really rare card. Then you have David Wright, who looked like he was on a Hall of Fame path, but just could not get over the injury bug, even though he was a great ball player and one of the best from the 2000s and the 2010s. His is about $41 to $90 for his Bowman Chrome autograph. A huge drop from where these players who are commanding huge prices are. And these are just the players that kind of are borderline Hall of Famers. And this is what will happen to about 99% of all prospects. These are some of the better players in the history of baseball. And you consider the actual overall number of players that reach 50 WAR or 60 WAR. Evan Longoria is almost there, and only 191 players have done it. And so it's just kind of a crazy thing to see. I just want to show you some prospect lists lists from the last few years. I'll go very quick over these to show how many have value. Here you have Trout and Harper. Other than that, no one really has value. Here you have, again, Trout and Harper. You have Manny Machado. His has gone up a little bit, but that's less than $500 for his Bowman Chrome autograph. And then on 2013, you really don't have much. You have Garrett Cole, but it doesn't go for much. You probably won't make the Hall of Fame either. Really tough. In 2014, you have a lot of better players, like you have Byron Buxton. His Bowman Chrome autograph goes for about that same price. You have Carlos Correa. His goes for about $110 at this point. Chris Bryant, Francisco Lindor, same situation. Great ball players in the history of baseball, but they aren't all-time greats. They aren't Hall of Famers, at least at this point. These players could make it still, but they're not projected by some people, and for that reason, they're not hot right now. And it's what have you done for me recently, and they're not worth a ton of value currently. 2015, same situation. That'll be the last year we look at. There's also huge downside potential with prospecting. This was probably a terrible purchase from the guy who bought this card, but you can see the confirmed sale of this Matt Harvey 2010 Bowman Chrome Orange Refractor, numbered 1/25 in June 8th, 2015 for $6,200. This is the same card, number 1/25, and this is now worth $76 on auction. That's one of the extreme examples again, but either way, it is tough when you're collecting players and really hoping for a long, successful career. So why are Bowman Chrome autographs worth so much? And the reason is because they can be worth so much. And I know that sounds silly, but you can see a Mike Trout Bowman Chrome autograph base card in a PGS 9.5 is worth $18,000. This Soto's dropped since I made this slideshow, but this is worth $4,500 here, probably closer to $30,000 to $3,500. The Pujols, a BGS 8 sold for $20,000, so this is probably worth $18,000. And you get the idea. These are the base cards. These are not the rare parallels and the rare versions like the golds that go for hundreds of thousands of dollars, or the super refractors that go for millions. I bet you the Mike Trout could command $5 to $10 million at this point. It sold for $4 million a few years back, and the market overall is higher than that last sale. So this is why we are speculating. This is not investing. This is speculation 100%. When you buy a player who hasn't debuted and hoping that they are going to make it big time, you're going to be a millionaire. It's a lottery ticket at this point, but there is money to be made doing this. So if we look, this is an example again. This Acuna went for $45,000. While this is an interesting thing, nothing to do with this video, but his rookie Bowman Chrome autograph gold only went for $6,000. Seems like really low compared to his Bowman Chrome first. But the Mike Trout went for about $50,000 here, $50,000 for a True Gem Plus, and so forth. Now, I want to talk about the pros of prospecting and why it is such an important part of the hobby still. The first thing, they're always on-card autographs. That's important because it's a very early autograph, the earliest autograph of a player. It helps you get more attached to that player. It's when they were a prospect. It's from earlier in their career. They're on-card autographs. That's really important. Prospecting is one of the best ways to make money with sports cards, not baseball cards, all the sports cards. You can buy a prospect that you believe in, and if they have one good year in the minor leagues, you could 10 times, 20 times, 30 times your money easily. It's just how it is. But you also at the same time could lose that money, which I've gotten into. I'm not going to be negative when I'm trying to be positive. But the point remains, it's the best way in baseball cards and one of the best ways in all the sports cards to make money if you are able to have the pockets deep enough and the ability to foresee how a player's career will be. Opening Bowman and Bowman products, Bowman Chrome, is the best ROI in arguably the entire sports card hobby. Yes, you might not have like consistently an opportunity to pull $1 million card, but there's no other product that costs as much as this does. That's at retail, for goodness sakes, that you can pull a super refractor autograph of a player that could potentially go for millions of dollars, like Mike Trout or Ronald Acuna Jr. or Juan Soto or so forth. You can do that in this product. It is one of the most fun products to open. I opened up a Bowman Chrome blaster box, Bowman blaster box, and pulled a green shimmer autograph of a guy I never heard of, and it was worth $200. And that's probably one of the most valuable cards I've ever pulled. I don't open much product, but the point remains, the ROI in these products is insane because of the speculation and because we have the attachment to players and we want to get in early in their career. So that's another reason why it's so lucrative, is because it's probably the best ROI because you can get in cheap and you can get lucky. It's much different than National Treasures basketball. National Treasures basketball, to even be in the running for a logo man of a player, their best card in basketball, you need to have deep pockets to get into breaks or to buy the product. These next 2 points are more negative, but I want to point them out. But 99%, again, like we discussed, won't be worth much in 35 years. They could be worth literally $0. So don't get attached to your prospect cards, because if you know you're collecting timeline, that is how you can make money with prospecting. If you know when to sell, when you know when to buy, you know all these different things from just experience. If you want to get to know these things, I don't talk about prospecting much because I don't do it super often, but I've had a lot of success myself. I just don't want to relay that to anybody and have them lose money because of me. But if you know you're collecting timeline, it's actually not so hard to make money with prospecting in the short term. In the short to medium term, it's pretty straightforward how you can do it. It's just taking a little bit more of a risk, because if the player performs negative in minor leagues, then you lose a lot of value. But if they perform moderate to good or even amazing, there's huge gains and it's easy to make that money back. If you like prospecting, more power to you. It is a very important part in the sense that prospecting gets people hooked to the hobby. It's one of those things where it's like, yes, I can make money doing this, and because of that, I'm going to keep collecting sports cards. And then you realize, you know what, this veteran player in the Hall of Fame path is a really good price. I'm going to buy that. Like, oh man, I love baseball now because I was prospecting because my friend told me to. Now I like vintage cards. This is an important part of basically anybody's collection. We all have prospected in some form in the past, and not all of us have been successful, but it's just one of those things where it's important. It is important to the hobby, and even though I don't personally do it often, I want to show why it happens, but also the dangers of prospecting for those who want to put big money into it. So my main concern with prospecting is Bowman Chrome autographs seem to devalue true rookie cards compared to other sports, which is hard. You'll see, like again, that Ronald Acuna Jr. example I showed, his Bowman Chrome Gold autograph that's a rookie card only goes for $6,000, but his Bowman Chrome First goes for $50,000. And the same things with actual Topps flagship cards nowadays. It's tough because it also dilutes it for people who don't know what baseball cards are. If they don't understand it, they'll try to get into the hobby, and it's just like, I don't know what's a rookie card. I don't know if this third-year prospect card versus his first prospect card versus his rookie card is the card to go for. So that's one thing I don't love, is it can be confusing, but once you understand it, it's pretty straightforward. It's expensive to get into. That's one thing I don't love, is it's not a very easy thing to approach and to really get into. Even me myself, it's just not worth the risk. I don't have enough expendable income where I can spend a lot of money on a red shimmer Bowman Chrome autograph of a top prospect. That's $10,000. So for me, that's one reason I don't like prospecting. And like I said earlier, it is a zero-sum game in the sense there's going to be winners and losers, and that's like most in investments or speculation. This is probably pure speculation because the reward is so high. But the point is, just be careful with it. But if you're good at it, you can make some serious money. And I know some people who've made some serious money. But for me, I don't talk about Bowman Chrome much on my channel for the actual prospect cards, and this is why. I was going to make videos on the top rookies to collect in Bowman, the Bowman release, but I don't want to recommend buying these players that it's just a little bit more of a chance than even rookies. Even rookies are so circumstantial about if they become valuable. You never know. And so for that reason, I'm talking about Bowman much, but I just wanted to explain my thought process there. So how should we approach Bowman releases? Again, know when you want to get there. Not many will be good medium to long-term investments. If you even look at Carlos Correa, he's a good player, 35 career WAR, probably before age 28. It's only worth his PSA 10 $255 compared to a base Marcelo Mayer, the guy we looked at the very beginning of this video. He was drafted last year. His Bowman Chrome Raw is probably worth double this, or pretty close to the same price at least. It's just tough. And if you look at Tim Raines, he has two rookie cards. One is with multiple players, one is with just himself. The one that's just by himself, there's only 156 PSA 10s, and it only goes for $1,600. That's about as good as it gets, and that's a rare card. And the one that has the three players on there from 1981 Topps, there's 171 PSA 10s, only goes for $1,000. So if these players, these are their most rare, valuable cards, Tim Raines is a Hall of Famer, and then it'll go for a lot. So it just shows, even if you're a Hall of Famer, it's not always going to be a good investment, I guess, if you want to look at it that way. But again, prospecting is the best way to make money, I would argue, in all sports card collecting, but don't be afraid to luck and profit if you're going to buy prospects, because don't get attached to your cards, because realistically, it won't pan out in the long term. So overall, that's all this video is. I just wanted to show some crazy stats on the odds of a prospect panning out for you, but also how much money really is in prospecting versus traditional collecting. Other than that, let me know down in the comments below what your thoughts on prospecting are. If I'm too critical, if I'm not critical enough, if you think it's a good idea, if it's a bad idea, and so forth. I would love to hear your approach when buying cards and what you do. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next video.